You have to be a sponge. I've got a great CEO coach in Brian Elias that he helps keep me on track. We've got a great marketing company that we partner with Sussman Agency that keeps me motivated and track. I mean, there's just different aspects, I think, in having a pivotal person or people that are role models for me. If I had to look really, Elon Musk, I mean, he's somewhat in our industry. He does batteries. I mean, it's groundbreaking of what he's doing. And it's motivating. It's exciting. The electric cars coming out. So I think that's another one that I probably look to see, how he's built his business and kept people going. It's exciting.
Yeah. So, one of the things I was thinking of too is, with pivotal people, typically there's, some kind of pivotal moment in their career. And I'm sure you've had some. We've talked about some actually. But, I was wondering, like, anything that, stems back, we're kind of going through a pretty pivotal moment right now that we have to overcome some adversity. And I think as a business, you certainly have. But like reaching back, like, were you running a business during like the housing crash and when society had its moments, and what was your reaction? How did you get through that? Let's talk about some of that stuff.
Well, as a kid, and I was running a company, in 2008 when the housing crash happened, right? But as a kid, I watched my parents, they're hardworking. Their role model, my work ethic comes from them. My dad worked his ass off at AT&T. My mom worked, third shift, and she worked at a bakery. I mean, they always hustled and they worked hard. We didn't have a lot, but they busted their ass to get there. But my dad had a spending problem, probably still does. Filed bankruptcy. I mean, I hate to share it, but it's true, multiple times in his life. And seeing him work his ass off to have to file bankruptcy, we're moving all the time doing these things, made me learn that you got to work hard, but you can't piss away all your money, right? You can't spend everything. You can't overdo that. And I watched him overcome that many times, right? Many times that, he was having to deal with adversity where, he overspent, wrote a check his ass can't cash type thing. And, we found a way to get through, found a different house to live in, found, everything that he did. I could see some of that adversity, and when you see pivotal, role models, people that are going to make an impact in your life, you've got to see the good in them and you've got to see the bad in them of what you don't want to do and learn. With Kevin Klink, my business partner and one of my best friends for life, I saw early in 2004 what he did good running a company in Arizona and what he did bad, right? And I tried to learn from that and be better than that. And then when he came to work for me, he, would help on the marketing standpoint and short term of how we can overcome and do things, right? And I would have the vision, and, it was yin and yang, and it was the opposite. So he was there as well. I also, when I was a kid, my dad worked blue collar, and there is nothing wrong with blue collar. That's what this country's built on, hardworking folks. But that's just not my giddy up. I watched my dad bust his ass his whole life and move to North Carolina and get a crappy package and struggle his whole life. All those hours you put in and all that work, and you don't have a lot to show for it. And, him and my mom. And I hate that because I watched his good friend, late friend, Mike Roberts, open a video store in the mid-90s. Early 90s when it was cool, before Blockbuster and them, right? This was the right. Biz. And he offered my dad an opportunity to open a sub shop and my mom a bakery. And my dad was nervous because my brother and sister had asthma, and he wanted the old faithful, right? The AT&T guaranteed paycheck. This is the right move. For him, it was the right move. But what it showed me in that moment is he had a buddy owned his own company that was just getting bigger. And I was like, wow. It made me say, I don't ever want to be that person, right? And, I just did a podcast with Heather Monahan yesterday, and that one's going to come out and it's great. And she felt like she was built for corporate America forever. And then when she got fired out of the blue, and she was this high, top lady in radio, she converted over to write a book and motivate people. And now she's does more, is worth more, helps more people. She's in a better place overall than before. So you do evolve and adapt. I've done some corporate America. When I was at AT&T, I didn't really have any mentors there doing sales. And, I was there, I was crushing it. And there was nobody really mentoring me there. When I got to Verizon Wireless in '01, we just passed 9/11. So, yesterday being emotional, thinking about that reminded me of how I missed my interview at Verizon. And I had an interview with a lady there. I don't remember her name, but then my interview changed to Vince Ferranda, who was my manager at Verizon, that I got an interview a couple of days later and I got the job. And thank God I did, because he helped polish me. He was another one of those professional mentors that could work for me. He saw, I believe, raw talent in me. I could sell anything, but I had to be more corporate. I had to sit in boardrooms. I had to be able to offer data solutions to these big corporations, and he would polish me. He would work with me to be more professional. We'd cut up, and he knew I had the sales skills to be the best, but I needed to be polished. So it was another person that really helped me along the way. So shouts out to Vince for that as well. And then it kind of went from that to going in the home security business. And, that's when me and Kevin touched again, and he had a small company, 12 employees run out of his bedroom, and we were supposed to be partners and open this company together. He didn't have the money. He decided to get into real estate. I opened up. He shut down. We didn't talk for 4 or 5 years. But when I went out there before we opened the business and saw what he did good and bad, that was inspiring. I saw what he could do and felt like I could do more in a different way, and what he was struggling at where I could help. So us being partners would have been great. He kind of fell off for 4 or 5 years, went through some dark times, and then he came back to work for me in '09. Well, I opened the company in '05. And along that time, I struggled. And I had to learn, and I had to fail to learn, and I had to lean on failed experience. I didn't really have a mentor in that game, and it was learned by experience and failure. It was nuts.
Now let's hear from our sponsors.
Any big moments where you're like, man, I really don't know if this is going to work unless I do?
I brought in different sales guys. And listen, I'm never bigger than anybody that works for me, right? I may be in a different position. I may have different attributes and skill sets that they don't. That doesn't make me better than anybody. So early on, I struggled. I talked about it before in another show, where I struggled to be the leader I needed to be for people that had more college than me, more experience than me, that were smarter than me, better spoken than me. I used to do the, I used to be that kind of guy, right? Nervous tick, couldn't talk very well. And I had to overcome that. And a couple of the sales guys that came in, they were inspiring. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was an older guy, and he sold for us, and he did pretty well. And he would always have this positive outlook, and he'd always say mud pies. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? And he's like, look, as bad as it ever gets here, there's people in other countries that eat mud pies. And as long as I think about that, and I don't want me and my family to be in that situation, I'm motivated. And that was inspiring. It was like, you know what, this guy, he gets it. And I need to, not get stuck in my own stuff. But really, I didn't really have anybody. It was crazy how we would, from that time, I had my dad, was retired. He was doing flyers, and then he started working in the installation side. But on the sales side, I had my brother who was one of the best salesmen ever. He was out, door knocking and selling. And, we had our up and down part of the relationship, but really it was just learn and go. It was, how do we get better? How do we mold to get better? The Monotronics team at the time, I think, groomed me a little bit. I think they also saw some talent in me, but they knew I was young and I was green. And, they kind of worked with me some. And then in '09, Kevin came back. Well, let's talk about '08. So you talked about the housing market fell apart. And for the listeners, viewers out there, like what we're going through today is similar to that. There was uncertainty. People were foreclosing on their home.
You're selling securities at this point, home security systems, right?
I'm selling home security. And our whole pitch was really hitting new neighborhoods, to where we go into new neighborhoods and we're selling home security with a free garage door opener or a $200 gift card from Home Depot to get installation for free and pay $1 and change monitoring a day.